Hello, welcome back to Erica's Welsh Garden. Today's video is all about what to sow in March. What an exciting time of the year. Today the sun is out, and actually we had a really heavy frost last night, and it was pretty cold this morning. It's still really cold outside, but I'm in the greenhouse and it's really pleasantly warm. I think it's about 14 degrees centigrade at the moment. It's gone down to 13 degrees because I've had the door open, but it is absolutely glorious. As you can see, the sun is shining, and I'm really sorry that I'm slightly bleached out because there is a break in our hedge here, and there is lots of sun. But anyway, let's get into the video and have a look at the seeds that we can be sowing in March. Before I get too excited though and start showing you all of the seeds that we can be sowing now, I just need to remind you that I am based in South Wales in the UK, and my growing zone is about 7B. So obviously if your climate is completely different to mine, or you have a completely different season at the moment, then you might want to just check these ones out first before you start sowing them. March. What an exciting time of year. What an exciting month for the growing calendar. I think if you have a look at every single seed packet going, I'm pretty sure that 99% of them would say that you can sow that vegetable at this time of year. But before we get too excited and have a look at all these seeds that we can be growing and get millions of seeds in pots and in the ground throughout this month, we just need to remember that actually we're still in winter at the moment. Towards the end of May we are going to be heading into spring, and that really is so exciting. We've got days like this now where it is really getting warm. We can start putting things in pots and growing them, and they will grow really nicely now. But it is still so cold, and it's still so cold at night. You know, we can be so tempted with things like our tomato plants that we've got in the house to bring them out, but it's still just far too cold at night, and we're still going to be getting frosts. We had a frost last night, as I mentioned, and the last 2 years in a row where I live, we have had frosts in late May. You know, I think I've mentioned that on every single video. So just bear that in mind when we look at the things today, because you know, all of these different packets are going to be saying that you can start things off in March, but they're not always the best ideas to start them off in March. And also in today's video, I'm not going to show you every single seed packet that I have in my seed box, because we'll be here all day. We're just going to go through about 5 or 6 varieties of vegetables today that are going to be really good to start off now and will establish quickly. So the first seeds I'm going to be talking about today are root vegetables. So the first one is carrots. Now carrots are such an easy thing to grow in your garden. You can grow them in buckets, inside a greenhouse, outside a greenhouse. You can grow them in the polytunnel or in the open ground. They're so versatile, and they can be pretty much sown weekly from now all the way through to October. The ones that you sow in October probably want to be brought inside a greenhouse or a polytunnel, so they do well over winter. I grew them last year or the year before last in the polytunnel, and I didn't have amazing results, but I definitely had some really good carrots that I was enjoying early in the year. So if you can get carrots in this month, it's definitely worth a go. Also with carrots, actually, another thing to remember is that when you're trying to germinate them in the heat of the summer, or you know, when we're getting periods of really hot weather, it's really hard to germinate them because the seeds dry out really quickly. Whereas if you start them off kind of towards the end of March, beginning of April, you'll find that they will actually establish really easily because the ground will continue to stay moist. The next root vegetable is parsnips. Again, just like carrots, parsnips can be sown pretty much kind of weekly throughout the whole year, all the way up probably to around about August time would be the last time to sow them outside in the ground. But with parsnips, they can be a little bit needy, and if they dry out, they will also not germinate. So you need to make sure that you get them off earlier on in the year. I'd probably suggest now, if you're going to be putting those out in the ground, I might fleece them as well, just so it can give them a little bit of extra protection while they start to germinate. And I think they take around about 14 days to germinate as well. So one little tip you can do is plant some radish seeds with them, because the radish will germinate really quickly and then give you a good view of that row, and you can then start looking out for all of the little parsnips germinating. And then while we're still sticking with root vegetables, I want to talk about turnips. Turnips are a brilliant thing that you can grow, and they're really quick. I think if you go for a snowball, you can be harvesting turnips as quick as 10 weeks, and they definitely are really, really fast. And then you've got other ones like this, which is the purple Milan, which looks really pretty. You can grate these and put them in salads, or you can just cook them. Roasting them taste really good. So definitely one to try if you've not grown them before, turnips. So while we're still talking about root vegetables, let's talk about beetroot. I absolutely love beetroot. Again, it can be roasted, you can pickle it, and you can also cook it in cakes. So it's a really lovely vegetable to grow. I love how it's just so colourful on the plate and just really tasty. So beetroot, again, can be planted inside a greenhouse, in pots, or out in the open ground. It's a really good one for growing out in the open ground. And with a beetroot seed, when you open it and have a look at the seed, it's quite knobbly. And the reason it's knobbly is because each kind of seed is full of about 5 or 6 seeds, which means when you're actually sowing them out, you don't want to sow them too densely because you'll end up with loads of them growing really closely together. So just be quite sparse when you're putting them out, and you will get some really nice beetroot really quickly. There are loads of different varieties of beetroot. This one here is just called Detroit, but you've got ones that are like long, kind of look more like carrots. You've got ones that are multicolored, like white and pink, and you've got yellow ones, just to name but a few. So there's loads of varieties of beetroot that you can grow, and you can also eat the leaves as well. So if you have sowed them too closely together, all you need to do is just snip them off and put them in with your salad. So definitely one to grow if you've not grown them before, and they germinate really quickly. And then that takes us on to chard. Chard is related to beetroot, but it doesn't actually grow a bulb underneath the soil or kind of halfway through the soil. This grows lots of leaves, and this one here is actually called rhubarb chard, and that is because it's got a really lovely red stem. But there's lots of different types of chard that you can get. You can get multicolored packets that have like oranges and greens and whites in, or you just have white chard as well, and it's a really fun thing to grow. But what is great is if you have children and you're trying to encourage them to grow things in the garden, then they are a perfect thing to grow. Again, the seeds are all knobbly, so you've got a multiple of seeds in each of the seeds, but that does mean it is much bigger, and that is great for little children's hands and stuff like that. So if you haven't tried chard before, give it a go. It's also got a really long growing season as well, so you can get it in the ground, you can harvest the smaller leaves for salads, and as it gets bigger you can then just steam them and kind of lightly cook them in the frying pan and stuff. Really tastes amazing. And the next seeds that I'm going to talk about are brassicas. Now, I am pretty sure I've talked about brassicas every single video that I've done so far this year. But brassicas, such as you've got things like broccoli rabe, that will give you a cauliflower type kind of spears in about 60 days. That can be pretty much sown every single month from February all the way through to August, and within about 60 days you're going to be able to harvest some really nice little kind of almost like sprouting broccoli, but rather than being purple, they will be green. So they can be sown now, again inside, outside, however you want to grow them. But if you are going to be growing them inside, they are likely to want to bolt because it's going to get hot quite quickly. So maybe start them off inside and then get them out into the open ground as soon as you can. Again, you can be sowing things like sprouting broccoli now. They take about 9 months from sowing to harvesting. So if we sow them now, they're going to give us food in kind of January, February time. Then you have Brussels sprouts. If you're looking to have sprouts on your Christmas dinner and things like that, then they are something to think about sowing. You can sow them from now, March and April time, and then you'll be harvesting them around about November, December, January time. So I've never actually grown these before. So if you've got any tips, you have to let me know what they are, so I get some good knowledge for this year. Then you've got things like your kales and cauliflower. Cauliflower is an all year round one, this variety, and you can actually sow this February, March, April, May time, and then later on in October. I've never been successful with growing cauliflower before, but we always start somewhere, don't we? So that's something I'm really going to try hard with this year. And with kale, you can be sowing that now, but just like the broccoli, you know, it is going to bolt quite quickly if it gets too hot. So this is something that you'd want to sow and have out in the ground. But if you're really busy, maybe don't worry about this towards kind of like a little bit later in April time. And now let's get on to our salad crops. Salad crops are one of those things that can be pretty much sown every single day of the year if you want to. There will be varieties that will germinate and grow, okay? So firstly, I've got some radish here. Radish are brilliant. They're really quick to germinate and grow. Great for children to grow in the garden too, because they are just so fast. And as I mentioned, with things like your parsnips and carrots, if you sow these along the same row, you'll be able to know exactly where you've sown those slow germinating seeds, but you'll also be able to get a harvest way before it's going to like inhibit the growth of the parsnips or the carrots. So brilliant. You should be sowing these probably every week if you can. Then you've got things like your crest that can be grown on a windowsill indoors all year round, or you can have it outside too. And if you actually let crest grow really big, it does have some really pretty flowers on it as well, but I've never let it grow that big, to be honest. But yes, that is something that you can be sowing all year. And things like chives too, you know, you can just sprinkle those and use them as cut and come again. So definitely worth getting your salads sown this month. Now with salads though, like I said, you can grow them every single month of the year really, but as we are getting hotter now, you know, you do need to keep an eye on getting them watered all the time, because if a salad crop is not watered enough, it will just go straight to seed and you won't be able to pick very much off it. And then I want to talk about tomatoes. I absolutely love growing tomatoes. My favourite variety of tomato is this one, and it's called Yellow Delight. It's absolutely lovely. It's a really beautiful little plum yellow tomato, but any tomato would do, whatever your favourite is. Get them started off now. You won't be able to actually germinate them probably inside a greenhouse unless you have like a mini propagator or something like that. You still need to be putting these on a windowsill inside. But if you haven't done so already, March is the perfect time to get your first lot off the ground and going, okay, because they will give you some really lovely fruits early on in the season. For me, I always put my tomatoes out in around about May time, May, June, and I'm going to be growing them in here this year, some in the polytunnel and some down at the polytunnel at the allotment. And that is another reason why I always put my onions in October time in the allotment, in the polytunnel or inside here, because I can harvest those on the same day as I put my tomatoes in. Went on a little bit of a kind of divergence there, and that reason for that is because I have some onion sets that I put in the other day, because the onions that I've got, I don't have enough. So I've also started some onion sets off in March, and if you haven't done that, that is the perfect opportunity this month to get them started off in pots or in modules like I have, or get them straight into the ground wherever you're growing the vegetables. And as you can see here, I have a variety of red and brown onions, and I've got another 2 trays as well. So hopefully this is going to be a brilliant time of year for my onions. But also another thing that you can be thinking about planting this month is a couple of potatoes. March the 17th is a day called St. Patrick's Day, and in the UK that is one of those traditional days that you can be sowing your potatoes. For me, that is a little bit too early to be getting them out in the open ground though, and I have been caught a couple of years in a row with my potatoes and frosts. But this month I'm definitely going to be starting some inside the polytunnel and inside the greenhouse here, because I love nothing more than a homegrown potato, and they will do really well in this indoor environment. So there you go, that is the seeds that I'm going to be sowing in March. Such an exciting time of the year. There are still so many varieties of vegetables that I've not talked about today that you can actually get planted or get sown this month. So do let me know down below in the comments if you're going to be sowing other things this month. I haven't actually, well, I was going to mention this and I've just remembered now actually, and that is talking about courgettes and pumpkins and squashes. Now, if I was making this video a couple of years ago, I probably would have talked about those this month. And if you look at the seed packets, it definitely definitely does say that you can sow them, but for me that is just way too early because where I am in South Wales. But if you are in the UK and you've already sown your courgettes or your pumpkins and squashes, please let me know, because I want to hear like the earliest time people are sowing them. But for me, I think really I'm going to be planting them out late May, early June time. So yeah, I'm going to wait until next month for that. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. I really hope you've enjoyed watching today's video. If this is the first time you're watching one of my videos, please do hit that subscribe button and ring the bell to be notified of all of my latest videos. As ever, YouTube have some videos up now on the screen that they think you'll like, so please go ahead and watch those, and I'll catch up with you in the next episode. Bye!